Hey friends, it's your host Steph Connell, lifelong goal-getter, betterment seeker, and both a student and master of making mindset matter. Through my 10 years of experience in coaching and leadership, I've seen passion and purpose diminish to form life's cookie-cutter mold. And due to that, you see the train of unhappiness get more and more bogged down. My mission in life is to get a rise out of you. Together, we are building a community of women who can not only voice their vision, but bring that to fruition. You are daring. You are valued. You are needed. And you are ever growing, my friend. The world needs our courage, and we are bringing it on strong. So without further ado, let's get to it. It's time to be bold. Hello. Welcome to today's conversation, which is taking place in my closet. And I do that because it just sounds so good in here. But today's conversation is actually, it's very interesting. I feel it's a closeted topic. And the topic that I want to, just kind of work through with you today is the topic of miscarriage and loss. And the reason I want to work through this with you is through my experience in conversations with other women who have gone through this experience. I have, really witnessed how it's something that's painful. It's something in process. It's something just leaves us in question and going down this spiral world of assessing our worth, if we've done something wrong. There's all these views and things that we process that don't really serve us. And so I just want to work through that moment with you. If you are someone who this is very recent for you, maybe it's a first time experience, maybe it's several. There's often times that we tend to attack ourselves for this very natural thing that happens in life. And I want to, I just want to take you back in time and share my story with you for a quick second. And I hope that this encourages you to share your story. Because part of what makes this such a closeted topic is the fact that it's never discussed. I never realized that loss and miscarriage was such a common thread in life. It is never something that anybody would ever talk about until the time it happens to you. Then somebody will share their story with you. And so I believe that part of this, not misunderstanding, but just not even the knowing of what's really, coming or could come in life at you. It's almost an impact and lack of preparation and lack of normalcy around something because it's been so secretized. So let me take you back, 6-7 years ago when I was, if you've ever heard my story before in Aborting the Possibilities, it's something that I discuss where it was never something where I envisioned myself to be this family oriented, really growing a family, being that mom, nurturing. And to be honest with you, with a lot of self-assessment, I've realized that that's something that I just didn't have growing up. And so it's just something that just wasn't instilled in me and something that I love that I'm working on right now in my life and that it's really flourished through me and with the experience of being a mom now. But prior to the experience of having children, I was such a career-driven woman. I believed that literally you can only have one. I would see women give up their careers or slow down their growth in terms of a career or working outside of the home to have families. And that was something to me that was a message where I really didn't like that. I really strived to really grow myself as an individual and what my presence really meant in life. And to me, that was something that, I could work on something and mold something to really be great at myself. And that vision was not being a mom at home. That vision was more so in art, it was in health, it was in growing people. That's what I love to do. And I felt that if I was to put that on hold, that, maybe I was a little bit scared that I'd ever come back to it. Because that can happen quite often. It's kind of like that moment where you get off the horse and you're just kind of, if a great example is right now in life, how we've been sitting at home for, almost 2 years, and it's like, oh, it feels uncomfortable to get back and going. Even people who, come to the gym and they're like, "Oh, I've had like 3 weeks off. It's hard now." And that can happen. And so some of those things would just sit through my mind, and I wasn't really passionate about having children. I was more so passionate about my career. And that being said, you know, things happen in life. I'm just going to say it as it is, where, we had an accident or a mishap. It's not an accident. We know how it happens. It just, we ended up getting pregnant, and that experience, I have to share this with you. My first time experience of finding out that I was pregnant was not a great one, because we weren't really, of all things, in a situation where we felt solid and secure to raise another being. We were freshly married. We hadn't been homeowners yet. We were still renting. We just didn't feel confident in that situation. But I'll tell you this much, that experience transformed and changed my complete outlook on having a family. And if you don't know it, go back to Aborting Possibilities. It's an excellent example of how my mind switched and I wanted to have a family. That being said, as I sat in that time in my life, I became so joyous and I realized that it's not what I thought it was going to be. And, it was about 11, it was 11 and a half weeks into this pregnancy. And I was starting to feel like, oh, this is wonderful. And of course, our family found out. And I have to share this point with you. Our family knew that we did not want to have children. I stressed that so much. I was like, no, I'm not having children. I drilled this into their heads because when you become married, that's the next big question that comes along over and over and over. And I remember when we were sharing this with a lot of our family members, they were extremely overjoyed. For my side of the family, this would be the first time that they would be grandparents, and they were so ecstatic. They were just, oh, so grateful. And on my husband's side, I remember, I believe it was like a Thanksgiving where we shared the experience that we were, pregnant, and, what was coming, and literally tears of joy were on his father's face. Tears of joy. And the moment that was taken away when we announced that, we were having a miscarriage, I can't speak for my husband's side of it, but they certainly are processing and going through pain and loss and all these shitty feelings. But on my side of it, I strictly remember feeling like um, someone who removes gifts from people. I felt like I was taking miracles away from someone who finally saw the light, someone who was so joyous that, you could give this gift of life. And that's all they wanted. They wanted to be grandparents. They were so happy. It was something they always wanted. And mind you, this is not why we decided that we wanted to have children, but to see the looks on people's faces of how happy they were for what was to come. And it was expansion of the family line, and just to remove it all away. You feel responsible. I mean, it was crushing. I was in such a rough place. This loss actually ate away a solid year and a half of my life. I blamed myself. I felt responsible for removing people's joy. I was confused. I was angry. I was just in such a place where I couldn't really process it. And I actually completely felt alone because, again, like I said at the beginning of this is not something that people discuss. And it's not something that I really even knew about until this happened. And when it happened, this is when people would share with me how sorry they were, but also on top of it, their own experiences that they went through. And it is true loss. So if you are going through something like this or have gone through something like this and you still feel like you're processing a piece of this, I want to share with you a little bit of magic of what had helped me process this experience. And the first one is really acknowledging the fact that this is part of life. Have faith that the best intentions are set out for you. Something beautiful and miraculous is coming for you through this somehow. And at the very least, it is the growth and ability for you to process this and pass that along to somebody else who goes through pain. Now, when I went through this was my very first experience of being pregnant, and it actually took us 2 years to have another. And so all these thoughts were running through my head like, maybe that was the only experience I'll ever really have. Maybe we can't have children. All these whirlwind of emotions start going through your mind. And it's funny. It's part of your healing process. And I want you to be aware and be connected with all the people in life that have gone through a similar thing. Be connected with other people. I want you to increase your acknowledgement and understanding that how many people have really gone through this. 1 in 4. 1 in 4 women experience miscarriage. That's a lot of people. And really research for yourself. Once you have the process, once you're able to kind of go through the emotional side of it, and that is valid because you have lost. I mean, you guys, I know what this feels like, and I want to share this with you. I mean, because this was my first time experience of being pregnant and losing, I was left with feeling like a mom without actually having a child to be a mom to. Acknowledge that you are still a mom. Acknowledge that. You are still a mom. You created for a certain period of time. And so you have all these hormones and you have all this connection to something. You built something. I want to take a second to go through causes of miscarriage with you. Okay. There are several reasons that can lead to loss. And I'm going to talk about that word loss here shortly because it's viewed as a loss when really it was a gift. I mean, when I really think about the experience of that first time, as much as it was very short, it was beautiful. It was an experience that literally changed our direction of our future for the positive. If it wasn't for that moment, we wouldn't have a family. If I never had that experience, we would never have a family. And what a gift. What a gift. That little tiny, whatever you want to call it, a zygote or embryo. That was its purpose in life. That little miracle, that's its purpose. It transformed where we went. That's a massive impact. So reasons you might have miscarriage are due to infection, hormonal irregularities, improper implantation or fertilized egg in the uterine lining, your maternal age, uterine abnormalities, incompetent cervix, and another one is exposure to environmental and workplace hazards such as high levels of radiation or toxic agents. Now, a couple of views that you can have on something like this, and these are some things that I would process during that time is beyond all things happen for a reason, really analyze the fact that when your body discharges something that's not working properly, that is it doing its job. Okay. It's not you. You didn't pick this. You didn't go, yeah, my thoughts of what if and whatever, and it made it happen. Your body is doing its job. Something was wrong. Something wasn't working. And I'd love to introduce to you a story that is very personal and it actually belongs to my mother who experienced a loss at 8 months. Now, that being said, this would have been my older sister. And my mom was very ill during her pregnancy with this one. She wasn't feeling well at all. And she ended up going into labor at 8 months. And when she went in, the baby was born. But the baby was born with I can't remember what it was called, but it's when a portion of your brain is not complete, basically. And it's an abnormality that they can actually pick up today, if I'm not mistaken. But back then, they didn't do all the routine checks like they do now. And, this baby made it 24 hours and then died. To me, I have never experienced that much down the road of losing a child that far gone. And I do know other people who have as well. And gosh, my heart is just like, ugh, man, the pain there and the processing and you know, the love and compassion you have to have for yourself. That's really something to work through. But when I think about it, when you miscarry or lose at any level, it's it's I don't want to say it's better, but for example, when I lose at 11 and a half weeks and my body is doing its job, I'm honoring that because the last thing I would ever want is for someone to be born that has such struggles to go through in life at a capacity where they need to, be helped all the time and they can't do anything themselves or, you know, be lying in bed and have all these tubes hooked up and we're not going down the road that if I believe you can help people get better. But what I'm addressing here is that your body has naturally said this one will not make it and has found it in time versus later on where it'll be more painful for either you or the one coming. So it's your body's way of saying, you know what? This one's not working out. Let's try again. Things didn't align, whether it's chromosomes didn't align, the environment wasn't at best state. And that being said, something to really know is that did you know that the current baby being born is born with over 200 toxic chemicals within their system? There's something to think about. How? Well, how's your diet? And I'm not just talking about what you eat. How's your skincare diet? Mhm. Hair care. All those fun things. And these are things that you can start to explore of you want to make your nest the best before you start creating. Start taking care of yourself. And that is the first step. Because when I really have to tell you this was a connection that I actually made quite recently, that between those 2 years of trying again, it's quite interesting how my lifestyle changed. I was not in the greatest place in my head, but I still took care of myself, and I was being more conscious about products I was using, the things that I was eating, exercising for myself, and I was really working on my mental capacity and growing myself and trying to become a better person. And I remember when all those things aligned, and number 1 was removing a lot of the stress in my head. When I removed a lot of that, ooh, that's when it happened. Baby number 2. And my first experience of miscarriage, excuse me, was not my only one. I had a second one. And when that one happened, it bothered me for about a day versus 1 year. That's the difference. Because I had a little bit more grace for myself. I knew how common this was. And what was interesting at this point, of course, negative things start to roll through our head. And one of the things that came through my head this time was, yeah, they say 1 in 4 has them, but here I am, 50%, maybe even more now, because I'm 2 out of 3. So it's actually way over. So maybe that means that I'm one of the people in life that just has them. You start to go down all these spiraling thoughts, and it's really interesting to see that we start attacking ourselves as women. And I really want you to have a little bit of grace with yourself, that you are not responsible for anyone else's joy and happiness. You are not responsible for the creation in this world. It's not your job specifically. You're not the one that took it away. Okay? Love yourself, have some compassion for yourself, and research things that help you not only process it, but really understand that it's a normal part of life. And it's a normal part of life, but it's also part of something that is so common. Don't feel shame in sharing your story. It's needed. It's needed so much. I think of every single scenario that's out there. We've had women who have really struggled to get pregnant and gone down IVF road. We've had people who have no problem getting pregnant, but have a hard time keeping it over and over and over. We have people who've never experienced it before. We have people who have had 1 or 2, and they're all going to be different. Some have carried all the way through and had stillbirth. Some people have had it in the beginning. And what I think we really need to acknowledge as women are a few things. We need to acknowledge that we have more within us than the natural ability to bear children. We are more than potential mothers. We need to acknowledge the fact that our bodies are so smart, and they're doing us justice and serving us and helping us. We have to acknowledge that there's a plan or a way of life that will turn out to be what we need, maybe not necessarily what we want or how we saw it to be. We need to acknowledge each other and be there for each other. And part of how we can do that is really expressing what really happens in life when going down this road, not being shy to share it, normalizing it. It's okay. It happens. It can be part of life. There can be a way to work through it. And it's not your fault. The best thing that I can leave you with in this conversation is it's not your fault. I've had a few conversations with women just wanting to explore if they've experienced miscarriage. And I had a 50% return on, my connections that I have. I did a poll on social media just to see who's experienced it, and about 50% have. That's just within my network who answered. And the ones that had, they all experienced a lot of those things where they felt alone, or, they felt like they didn't understand it. They were upset. Of course, it's loss, especially when you have hopes, really strong hopes to start your family and you haven't even, let's even say, had one yet, and it's your first one. That same experience of, what if I actually can? Maybe I actually can't. And this was my only, things like that go through your mind. It's very common. Have grace with yourself and acceptance with yourself. You always hear these stories about people who, when they're not thinking about it, they get pregnant. When they're not trying so hard, or when they're not stressing about things. And it really is a truth behind lowering your stress level. It really is. But to remember that your job is to be yourself. You are the host of this little thing that is being created. And if it decides that it's not ready, it's not ready. Our job is to nurture what is ready and prepare for future. And don't attack your body for, not maybe not, you're thinking that maybe it's not doing what it's supposed to, but maybe it really is. Maybe it's a message to you that something else needs to change first. It could be life, could be the way your life's set up, might not be. Could be the way that your health is set up. Could be the way your hormones are set up. Could be the way that your thought patterns are set up. Something needs to change and prepare you for what's to come. And your body has this way of knowing before you do. It's one of the most amazing things to see your body be smarter than you. When these things happen, going right down to the most basic, and I'm going to compare it to a pimple. When you have a pimple, it's not just a pimple. It's not like, oh, I need to get rid of this blemish on my face. Why is it doing that? I don't understand. Maybe I ate something. But it's not really that. It's a continuous, toxicity that you allow into your system. And I'm not talking food or skincare, or even your thought patterns, down to the most basic thought patterns can alter the way your body works. Not meaning that you did it. It's your body saying it's not ready, or this little being was not ready. But maybe, what if we could see it as a gift? What if we could see it as a learning opportunity? At the most basic level, non-emotional, which is very hard to say when you're so connected to something like that. But if I was to give myself advice looking back, it would be all the things I'm telling myself right now. It would be, you did your job, process, learn, take care of yourself. What will come, will come. Trust in life. And this gift, if it wasn't for that gift, you would have never had a family. You would have never tried. Be grateful. What did you learn from your loss? What gift came to you from your loss? How was this actually a miracle? Hmm. Some things to process today. Thank you for diving into this conversation with me. It's going down a road that, it's certainly been some time or it feels like a long time ago, but I remember it so well. And I know if you are going through something like this right now where you have lost, I am going to provide you with a few links that I thought were just so helpful and so supportive. Surround yourself with supportive people. Know that you're loved. Know that you're not blamed. Have compassion for yourself. And I want to encourage you to share your story because we need it. So listen, I really enjoyed spending these moments with you today, and I hope you did too. My gratitude is through the roof. But in order for us to make even more magic in this world, we've got to spend more time together. Make it your focus to connect consistently so you can continue to gain and change up your days to come. Secondly, we are a direct result of who we hang around with, and now you're in the world of becoming better. By sharing this episode, you are making an impact in someone's life, and frankly, we're just better together. And don't forget to tag me so I can send some love and shout-outs back, my friend. Until next time, this is your host, Steph, on Be Bold.